Other interesting political news, you have Vivek on Blackrock, State Street, and Vanguard getting over 1 million views on the X. Now, this actually, on the time of this recording, is actually up to 3 million views and 54,000 likes. And this is a little bit of a long video, but thankfully his voice is very much more better than mine, so we'll listen to him in a second here. And he has a little bit of text before the video. In the text he tweets, or he posted, quote, Blackrock, State Street, and Vanguard represent the most powerful cartel in human history. They're the largest shareholders of nearly every major public company, quote, or little parentheses, even each other. They use their own money to create a country that you never voted for. As president, I will cut off the real hand that guides the ESG movement, not the invisible hand of the free market, but the invisible fist of the government itself, unquote. And without further ado,
ESG movement I want to talk to you about the ESG movement in this country. A lot of people actually, when I'm running for president now, they got to know me this past year, say, hey, love what you're saying, but you came from nowhere. It's not quite true. If you've been following me for the last several years, I've been arguably the leading opponent in terms of actually doing something to stop the ESG movement and its spread in America. I'll tell you what it is, and it's not some technical financial concept alone. It goes to the heart of what the American Revolution was actually fought to protect, self-governance in this country. ESG refers to environmental, social, and governance factors. Sounds benign enough, and then they make it an acronym to make it sound boring. That's on purpose. The more boring it is, the more you have to pay attention. That's my rule of thumb. It's designed to be soporific, to put you to sleep. Anyway, what they're doing is, this refers to a trend where they're using your own money, not your votes at the ballot box, something far more regular, something far more daily. Your own money to vote for environmental, social, and governance agendas in corporate America's boardrooms that you didn't support. How are they using your money to do it? It's your 401k account, your retirement account, your brokerage account that holds stocks. It holds these shares, okay, shares in publicly traded companies. But those shares give you and entitle you to a vote on things like who's hired and fired at the board of directors, which decides the pay of the CEO, how those board members are paid, things like that. Well, it also decides what the policies are that are set for that company. So here's a couple facts you probably didn't know. Most of you probably had your money used to vote for Scope 3 emissions caps at Chevron in the last several years. Did you know that? No, you didn't. Did it advance your best financial interests? Absolutely not. In fact, Scope 3 emissions caps constrain what a company can and cannot do. It says they have to reduce the emissions caps not only of their own company, but reduce the emissions of their entire supply chain. There's no way that works in the interest of Chevron. But they're using your money, which is used to own shares of a broad stock market basket that includes Chevron, to constrain what Chevron's able to do in the name of this ESG movement. Your money was almost certainly used in the last couple of years, if you own money in broad index funds or the stock market via Blackrock or State Street or countless others, to vote for racial equity audits at Apple a couple of years ago. Now, does that help Apple become a better company, more competitive with Chinese competitors or others who don't have those racial equity audits in their hiring practices? Of course not. It's worse for Apple. And the funny thing is, actually, even the boards of Chevron and Apple were against each of those policies before the shareholders, who are the shareholders? You, your money, was used to vote in favor of those policies over the objection of the management teams of those companies. So that's what's going on. Those are two examples among many. Your own money is being used to advance agendas that are counter to your own views, but even more perniciously, against your own best financial interests. That's what the ESG movement is all about. It's effectively blue state pension funds and government actors being able to use financial institutions like BlackRock to do through the back door what they could not get done through the front door under the Constitution of this country. This is arguably the largest scale violation of trust, fiduciary breach in human history. A fiduciary breach refers to somebody who's managing your money. They owe you a fiduciary duty. That's the highest duty of loyalty that they could owe you. Well, they're breaching that to advance somebody else's agenda. It's arguably a large-scale antitrust violation. BlackRock, State Street, Vanguard, these three firms alone are the largest shareholders and the ones that sway the votes from competitors, from Coca-Cola to Pepsi, from Disney to Paramount Pictures.
They quite literally own the largest share of more than 80% of the S&P 500. I believe that was a report a couple weeks ago by Patrick Bet David, his podcast. They had a show where they talked about this specifically. They have that much sway.
From Chevron to Exxon, you think we have competitive free market capitalism, but not when the same puppet masters are pulling the strings of those same companies. It's also, arguably, even when they use pension fund money to give it to these firms, a First Amendment violation. Those who are pensioners, those are government employees, they're forced to give their money in the pension funds that then go to the likes of Blackrock, who are effectively speaking on their behalf on what are fundamentally political questions. So my first book, Woke Inc., was all about this. I wrote that several years ago. I followed up, actually. My third book was a sequel to that, called Capitalist Punishment, that laid this out into detail. I'm not just an author, I'm an entrepreneur. It's what I've done for most of my career, long before I started writing books. I decided to put that skill set to work. I started a company called Strive to compete directly against Blackrock, State Street, and Vanguard. But that's what I've been doing before I ran for president. And so anyway, for those who wondered, oh, this guy came out of nowhere, not quite, do your homework. But it's not about me, it's about the fact that this agenda now is taking new forms. After I went on my assault of this movement's intellectual core, what happened was they started going by new names. So BlackRock stopped using the word ESG. They're now using the word sustainable investing. So this is where our movement needs to know that you got to stay one step ahead of where the other side is. We're too easily duped, actually. That's part of why I'm in this. Who cares about the verbiage? ESG, SHMESG, doesn't matter. DEI, CEI, it doesn't matter. Forget the acronyms. Get to the heart of what's going on. And in this case, your own dollars are being weaponized against your own best financial interests. But now in an election year, it gets a little bit more pernicious than that. It takes a darker turn. Larry Fink, he's the CEO of BlackRock, a board member of the World Economic Forum, the guy who's the king of this woke industrial complex, arguably the most powerful person in the private sector, deciding how shares are voted in corporate America's boardrooms. But in this election year, it's taken a darker turn. They're not just controlling corporate America. They're not just controlling the way the political process is run through the super PAC industrial complex and otherwise. They're controlling the party that you think you're a member of, the Republican Party itself. And I think there's a game unfolding in plain sight that people have missed. A lot of Republicans, I think, have been trained. We should have been. Not even Republicans, Americans. Forget the Republican Party. They're just a subsidiary of this ESG movement in its own right. It's deeper than that. There's something else going on in plain sight this year where the same puppet masters who are pulling the strings of corporate America are now pulling the strings of, I think, the political process, including in the Republican Party itself. That's a devious game. I'll have more to say about that soon, but for now I just wanted people to understand the table stakes of what's been going on in the ESG movement. That's bad enough. Understand that. Understand how your 401k account, your brokerage account, etc. is being weaponized. That's step one. Once you understand that, we'll get to the devious part of what's actually happening in 2024.
And he mentioned his book, Woke Inc. That is a fascinating tale. I cannot recommend people read it enough. Why not use a little visualization? So I have, I have a couple bookshelves to it's my left. But this is Vivek's, one of the first books I read. This is not too long. It's about, a little over 300 pages. But that's the specific book that Vivek was just referring to. That was the first book he talks about, in which he talks about how all these social ideologies start to combine with businesses and become a huge influence on them. So I definitely recommend if you're a business nerd or just a cultural nerd or political nerd, it's a great amalgamation of all those things. It's a fascinating tale. And let me know in the comments, would you be interested in me doing a book review? I usually read at least one book. Oh, I don't usually read. I always read at least one book a month. And the topics are usually business, politics, or philosophy. So let me know in the comments a little bit of feedback, so I always appreciate it. Is that something you'd be interested in if I were to do a book summary? Or I know there's already cliff notes, maybe just a highlight of what the things I thought were the most interesting, most important parts of the book. Be fascinated to hear. Let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. Now, getting back to Vivek's statement, they got 3 million views and 54,000 likes. So as you might say, it went viral, to be sure. Now going to the comments section, One of the very first ones comes from, let me see here. Someone by the name of Jill86 says, quote, if you really are the things that you say, you would make the best vice president to Trump ever, and then we could have 8 years of you, especially if you walk the walk, unquote. That got 508 likes. Devin Butcher, though, I don't want to say he gets an F for marketing. It's just a picture of a guy. He's not holding a cleaver or a traditional butcher apron. So this alleged butcher says, quote, they must be stopped and you're the man to stop them, unquote. Getting 387 likes. Let's see here. William Morris says, quote, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard are the modern-day East India Trading Company, unquote. Getting 42 likes. And it is one of those issues where, again, it's especially if you work in corporate America, they're the default for a lot of your 401ks. If you want to deviate from the company plan or you want to have your own individual, 401k, you have to manually meet with HR. You have to demand you want to put that money, or in some cases, it might not even be an option. But that's one of the reasons these companies have such huge $1 trillion in valuation behind them. They can use to vote how they want, and they have so many control of these companies. Is because they're the default 401k for so many people. So to really combat that, you have to have a lot of people caring about their long-term life investments, and that's hard to get people to care about to begin with. And then making a change is a huge, huge issue. Then they have to cognitively say, I want to move my 401k, move my resources, my savings from this account to this other provider, other brokerage firm. So it's a huge barrier of entry and then a barrier to change. So that's why I'm a little skeptical. I'm wondering, fiscally speaking, how could you combat these companies when, again, for so many businesses, they're just the default 401k for all employees. Then you have the public sector. They have so much money in their 401ks. It's astonishing. And they're also very much politically active as well, which compounds the cultural and political movement that we've seen where businesses are getting involved, they're being swayed, and not doing what's best for the shareholders and not actually doing their fiduciary responsibility, aka doing what's best to monetize and make the most money for the company and their employees and shareholders. They're doing what the people want for political and social reasons. So it'll be interesting to see. I'm not sure what it's going to take to really combat that, but that is something to think about. Now, let's see. Space says, quote, careful, remember what happened to Russell Brand. It is a caricature of the Muppets. I forget what you call the two gentlemen who sat in the opera house, the top where they laugh at the show. But on that picture it says, quote, he said Vanguard and BlackRock out loud. Clearly he is a Russian racist rapist, unquote. They got 65 likes. Continue to scroll down. Scotty W says, quote, this guy impresses me more every time he speaks, unquote, getting 108 likes. Let's see here. Peter Tarr says, quote, I certainly hope there's nothing that can be used to compromise you if you're elected. If there is, they'll find a way to use it. It's not that nearly 100% of politicians start as corrupt established lackeys. It's that they end up that way after being bought or compromised, unquote. They got 44 likes. Johnny W says, quote, protect Vivek at all costs, unquote, getting 101 likes. Jim Martinau says, quote, Nikki Haley is the new replacement for Biden. Yep, getting 77 likes. Ashley Joe says, quote, BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard shaped a colossal influence. A call to reshape the narrative around the ESG movement, thought-provoking perspective on the intricate web of power. Unquote, getting 46 likes. And Vivek, he had the right call. You're talking about how these companies are moving away from the vernacular of ESG. We covered that a couple months ago, in which McDonald's, one of the largest companies on the planet, they removed the terms ESG from their website, but they replaced it with new vernacular to more or less have the same effect. So I think they're starting to notice that people are realizing what ESG really stands for, and it's not good marketing anymore. So they're going to change the vernacular to something else, though it will have the same effect, which I think is why we're seeing all those keywords and those phrases taking down corporate websites. As I continue to scroll through the comments, you have Dr. Insensitive Jerk saying, quote, this is huge. Institutional investors hold the whip hand over most large corporate boards. Disclosure, I'm a real economist. again, click the subscribe button. It may help with my speaking ineptitudes. It's not 100% guaranteed. Very few things in life are, but it might help. I got 58 likes. Excuse me. Let's see. Winnie Skolas says, quote, "The control our life and our choices," unquote, getting 21 likes. Douglas Heinrich says, quote, "They want to control us. It's up to us to stop it," unquote, getting 50 likes. And it's true. Go to your boss tomorrow, or more accurately, go to your human resources department. Say you want to move your 401k. If your company has an agreement with Vanguard, State Street, tell them, I want to go to maybe a smaller brokerage firm or a mom and pop shop. Again, I'm not getting financial advice. I'm just saying, if you want to have some teeth to your bite, so to say, if you really want to be more involved in the cultural movement around investing and getting it back to having it more merit-based and having it go back to the point in which it was more fiscal responsibility of the shareholders, you got to start shifting away from these companies. I know sometimes it can be a pain in the rear, but they have so much resources. Not only do I think you need to have more companies pop up to combat them, so Vivek started Strive, but you need to actually have resource shifting as well. Because again, they have trillions of dollars in assets, and that's quite literally just them managing so many investments and 401ks. So I think you need a twofold plan in terms of you need to build those new businesses, build those new 401k brokerage firms, and you also have to have people move their accounts away from those companies. Now, a couple more comments here. Judge Jeannie Fan says, as a picture compilation of Joe Biden with text, and the text says, quote, "If you got the most votes in American history, you don't have to go after your political opponents, but if you cheated and stole the election, you pretty much have to," unquote. That got 655 likes, being one of the most viral ones out there. Let's see here. Jaron says, quote, oh, whoops. Darn, sometimes the touchscreen technology eludes me. Let's see here. Almost back to the point. Where'd it go? All right, so Jaron said, quote, "How does ESG benefit these companies? What's the point?" unquote. Zero likes, but brings us about a question. I suspect it's more about control and ego. Because again, all these, like Larry Fink, he's one of the most fiscally successful people in history. He has millions of dollars. I believe there's some, was it Larry Fink? I forget if it was him or one of the executives at Microsoft. There's someone saying how they have an art collection. The art collection alone is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, they have fiscal wealth. They've accomplished that. Now I believe it's more around the next step in their career, which is getting involved in politics, having political and a different influence on society. So that's my 3 cents. Used to be 2 cents, but 40-year hyperinflation, gotta be 3 cents. Should be 4 cents, but I'm a generous man, just my 3 cents today. Though, still free, again, to click the subscribe button. And as I continue to scroll through, more and more comments, it's just overwhelming support for Vivek. And again, I thought Vivek was also articulate and wise to bring up the issue of there are a lot of people who don't know his backstory. I mean, personally, I'm a bookworm, so I showed you the book that I read a couple of months ago. So I always like to know as much about folks as possible, especially when they're successful entrepreneurs. Again, politics, that fascinates me. But again, a lot of people you look at the comments previously, a lot of the feedback for Vivek is, where was this guy? What was his background? Which again, it kind of shows, unfortunately, the lack of effort some Americans will put into researching. I mean, it takes not even 3 seconds to just do a search engine for this guy just to see what his background is. But nevertheless, I think he's correct and articulate. I think it's a good move on the political chessboard to keep bringing up the concerns that people have, because he's addressing the hesitations people have expressed in previous posts in the comment section. So I think that'll help him in his ever-increasing effort to get the Republican nominee. Again, he's still far behind Nikki Haley. She's getting closer to passing on DeSantis. And, of course, Trump is ahead of everyone, though he's getting banned on the Colorado ballot. The Supreme Court will probably have to rule on that, of course. So it'll be interesting to see. He's addressing all the hesitance. It's very much like a traditional sale of a product. People are saying we don't like him, we're hesitant to vote for him because of X, Y, and Z. And he's addressing those concerns. So the real question is, what other concerns do people have on not casting a ballot for him? And can he address all of them? And of course, there are a lot of people who I know who would vote for Vivek, but they just have Trump as their pick right now. I think that's a big reason Vivek isn't ahead of DeSantis. If Trump was not running, I think Vivek would be probably ahead of DeSantis, just based on the anecdotal evidence I see on social media. And again, I know it's not a direct correlation with the polls and social media, but there are a lot of receptive people, and anecdotally speaking, just speaking with guys around the water cooler. Well, a lot of the folks are really appreciating what Vivek is saying, and he has a lot of unique ideas, and more bizarre and unique from a political perspective. He actually gives ways to fix problems, as opposed to most politicians giving the cliche, we need to get Americans back to work, which every politician since the dawn of time keeps saying. But Vivek actually gives steps and policies and procedures on how to accomplish his goals, which is pretty rare. I wish every politician did that. That would be a great thing to demand. So it'll be interesting to see. Let me know in the comments, would you vote for Vivek for Republican nominee? And if not, what are your hesitations, or what does he need to do, or what topics does he need to address to overcome those concerns? So be fascinated to hear what you have to say. Thank you, everyone, again, for taking the time to tune in today. Again, we're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers by the end of December. Still a little bit of time, so you click that button. I greatly appreciate it. Also, leaving a comment is a great way to give me some additional feedback. Let me know how I can make the show better and better, as I do want to constantly improve the product and make everyone more excited to tune in and tune in again. Also, leaving a thumbs up is a great way to let me know I'm on the right track, as well as I think it helps with the YouTube algorithm to get shared more. Lastly, don't forget to take time to tell your family, tell your friends, tell your coworkers, heck, tell your enemies, tell anyone and everyone. Just stay safe, fight the good fight.